Are you ready?
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Parishscope. This is the podcast that acts as an arm to the newsletter of the Parishscope from St. John Sand Prairie. I'm Pastor Chris Sansom.
And I'm Casey Doremus, the Creative Worship Director at Our Savior Lutheran.
Well, let's all be honest here. I got a little bit of a shock here today when I was logging in and we were trying to get set up and ready to go. We found out that we have hardly any time left to record. So the way this software works is they give you so many recording hours, and they give you so much storage and all that kind of stuff. Well, as it turns out, the plan that I have, which is not free, but it's definitely the cheaper of the plans that they offer. They have updated their terms, and when they did that, they gave me less time. Which is not the greatest thing ever for me.
No.
But anyway, so long story long, you and I, we have 50 minutes tonight. That's it.
Yeah.
I know. So we're gonna have to cut it short a little bit, which is definitely not my favorite. But that's that's kind of how we're gonna get started today, is just by yeah. So the company, again, just for those that want, the company I use is called Podcastle.ai. And they, honestly, to be fair, they've been a really good company, so I have no complaints other than like right now. To even last week, we actually lost our audio last week.
Yeah,
it was crazy. Like, and honestly, that maybe would be a complaint, but then I emailed them, and guess what? Now I have my audio back. They gave it back to me.
Yeah, they're pretty good with customer service, so.
Yeah. So, again, just a lot of good things about the company. This is the first time that I was ever kind of shocked by what they did. And we're going to see if we can kind of rectify that or fix that in the future. And it might just be that I have to go to a little bit of a heftier plan. The last one we did with a Thrivent Action Grant, which was awesome, to be honest with you. So we'll have to see what we can do. I might have to use another Thrivent Action Grant, but we'll work on it.
Yep.
So that's kind of where we're at. And honestly, I just decided, we were talking about this right before we went on. I was like, what news story do I talk about? There's a lot of stuff going on in the news, but I feel like a lot of it's just kind of left over. So I think I'm just going to use the Podcastle thing for now.
Yeah.
Especially since we're on a little bit of a time crunch. So without further ado, I guess no. I'll you know what? I will save that for the end. I will save that for church chatter.
Okay.
I was thinking about saying something, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to save that for church chatter.
Well, now I'm intrigued.
Yeah,
that's a great way to hook. Now people got to listen to the whole episode.
They got to listen to all 50 minutes, assuming we get that far.
Yeah.
All right. So, no stupid questions.
Yeah. So I'm making my way. I'm very close to being done with the book of Genesis, which I'm excited about. And one of the things, though, that I want to ask you about, because I'd never really heard a lot about this, and I don't know, maybe this is something I could picture. This is something you probably discussed with all your buddies at lunch at seminary and got really into the weeds about. Maybe we'll see. But there's the Genesis 3:8. Do you know what I'm going to say, or not yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. Well, there's sort of a debate, I guess, online, or maybe just in general, about the whole idea of they heard God's presence walking in the Garden of Eden. So this is after they sinned, they ate the apple, and now they hear. And there's a few things in this verse that I've found that people are debating over. One of them is that they talk about it as the cool of the day. And there's a debate on whether that's actually the cool of the day, or because apparently the word that's translated also can mean storms. Now, I hear this stuff, and there's a part of me that I don't know if someone's just completely making that up, or if that's true. So it's kind of hard for me to like, I don't know. So that's why I like being able to ask you, because
Sure.
there's some people who have said, oh, well, maybe it was in the cool of the day, but it also might have been like a really, like a storm was going, and that's one of the reasons they were hiding, and then they heard God's presence. And then uh, the other kind of debate about it was whether or not that presence walking around the garden, if that was actually sort of Jesus before he became a human being. Because I don't know, there's the debate about they never saw God's face, but then yet he's walking in the garden, or his presence is walking in the garden. So I wanted to ask you about that, because that's another thing I've talked to someone recently about, this idea of sort of Jesus being present in certain parts of the Bible before he was came to earth as a actual human being. So I don't. That's a very broad sort of like go, but what's sort of your thought
That's
on
kind of a
that?
this very broad go.
Yeah, there's
So
not
so
like an
okay,
exact
so
question. Just like what do you think about that?
okay, so the word there, and I looked it up. I had to look it up because I was like, I think this is it, but I don't know. The word there is ruach, and
Okay.
ruach in Hebrew means wind, breath. It can also mean like soul or spirit, because sometimes like that's how spirits are described, as like almost like this wind or blowing. And so that's the word there. Now, I guess you could hypothetically say, well, if there's enough of it, then maybe that's a storm or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but it's basically saying, hey, it's kind of like the breezy part of the day or the windy part of the day. And so most people would probably argue that's kind of like in essence the cool of the day, so to speak. And quite frankly, without any research whatsoever, I can tell you that more than likely your translators probably have that right.
Yeah.
I would have to look it up to be sure, but I'm pretty sure that might function as like an idiom, you know,
Yeah.
if they were to say the windy part of the day or the windy day or something like that. I'm doubtful that they're saying, "Oh, this is the stormy part of the day."
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and that's, I mean, I don't want to jump too far into that discussion, but yeah, I do think when I'm looking at some of these people on YouTube and talking about things, I think it's different when you're getting someone who's basically speaks English and they simply look up a few words of Hebrew
mhm,
and then go, oh, well, maybe it means this instead. I mean, which is maybe
yeah,
they're right, but also if it's someone who really speaks Hebrew and English who translated it, I feel like they would have maybe a better really understanding of exactly what was being said.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, go on.
Well,
Sorry.
and to be fair, like that's actually one of my complaints. I remember when I was a kid, when I was like in high school and stuff, and like getting an amplified Bible was all the rage. And an amplified Bible just takes certain words and it gives you other ways that it can be translated.
Ah,
And um, amplified Bibles can be helpful at times, but they can be helpful if you're like looking for the nuance of a word, but they can be very harmful if you don't understand how language works, like in terms of translation.
mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times, for instance, with ruach and maybe that's a good example. Maybe there's like one or two times in all of history where it's translated as storm, or it needs to be translated as storm. That still means that the bulk majority of times that it's going to be utilized, it's going to be utilized to mean like wind or cool of the day, so to speak.
Yeah,
And so as a translator, it would just make more sense for you to use um the more common one rather than the more rare one.
yeah,
um, and they kinda have a principle with that too, right? Like, if the most common version of translation will work, that's the one you go with. Um, and if that will not work, then you start looking for maybe some more, exceptional or rare cases.
yeah,
And so a lot of times whenever you get to translation, you kinda get stuff like that, where, yeah, okay, I can make this say all kinds of weird things, but I'm not gonna because that wouldn't be normal.
yeah,
Um I mean, look at it this way. It's kind of like the joke. The joke, like you see it on a Family Guy and whatever. The founding fathers are writing the amendments and stuff in the Constitution, and the guy walks in with like two stuffed bear arms, and
right, yeah,
and the guy goes, I don't see how anybody could misinterpret this, you know,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
because you have the right to bear arms, like, and the guy is walking around with like fuzzy bear arms.
Yeah.
Um, but it's kind of like that, like, like that's the joke. The joke is that like nobody would take it that way, but can you read it that way? Can somebody in 1,000 years take a look at the Constitution and go, man, these guys, they hunted bears. That's what they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
They were all bear hunters, and they took their arms and carried them around. They had a right. It was in the amendments,
Yeah.
you know. And that's kind of what we're doing is we're taking these like really rare, exceptional uses, and we're trying to fit it into something that it just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Um, that being said, yeah, I would say maybe very loosely translated, you can maybe do winds or storms, but honestly, I would just probably stick with the cool of the day. In terms of whether or not this is the pre-incarnate Jesus, honestly, I'm not going to touch that one. I'd have to do a little bit more research into that one in terms of overall thoughts. There have been some times where God appears in a human form, and a lot of people talk about how it might be the pre-incarnate Christ. I don't know if that would be this one. Um,
Okay.
you know, but then that leaves the question, like, how did, because Adam obviously walked and talked with God, um, and so there is going to be some of that, like in terms of questions, and how did he do that, and all that kind of fun stuff. But so the point of the matter is I'm not going to try to answer something that I just don't necessarily have an answer
Yeah.
to per se.
Well.
In terms of why they hid, though, that's actually part of why the eating the apple,
Right.
realizing that
Yeah.
they were naked, realizing that they had shame, all of that kind of stuff goes into play. And so, yeah, they kind of hid, but they hid, because of who God was, being righteous and holy. Remember, everything is still perfect,
Yes.
you know, even if, look at it this way, even if a storm did come and winds were whipping and raging, remember, Adam and Eve have probably never seen anything that's destructive. They don't
Yeah.
know what destruction is, and so
Yeah.
they probably wouldn't run for their lives because they didn't know what death was, really.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
At least not in the full capacity like you and I know. We would run because we were afraid, but they wouldn't actually understand that they are supposed to be afraid. But they understand shame. They understand that they have sinned, they have done wrong, and so they
Right.
hide themselves. You know, and you still get this. I mean, heck, you get this with pets. You ever yell at a dog and all of a sudden they hide their face from you? Like, it's shame.
Right. Right.
Like, and humans do it a lot. We hide our face. We try to make sure nobody's looking at us, kind of thing. We're ashamed.
Yes. Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know. It's some of the, as I'm going through and trying to research more about, because I'm very new to kind of really diving really deep into it. And so one of the things I heard a person say is they were debating over, like same-sex marriage in the Bible, like biblically, like where does if it really says whether or not that's wrong. And the person, I thought it was a really interesting response, because she responded to the person and said, I don't read the Bible to try to see what we can get away with. I try to read the Bible to see what example I need to follow.
Yeah.
And so when you brought up the Bible that had like all the extra translations, like, or added stuff, I
Hmm.
feel like when you said like sometimes that can be good and sometimes it can be bad, I'm like, I think it can be bad when people are just trying to see how far can I skew everything to
Yeah.
like, maybe it didn't really mean that. Maybe it kind of meant this, or maybe, instead of taking it for what it is, or what we kind of all accept it being. I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
interesting. So that's one of the things I kind of wondered about. And I mean, I have one other question that I don't think it will take you very long. So I think we have time, because I got to the story about Joseph, and
Yeah. Of course.
and the Pharaoh, and he in it now. I may be my wording might be off a little bit, but he, they prepare for the famine or the famine, right?
Yep.
The yeah, and it was saying how he helped these people, and they dedicated. I don't know what you call it. They basically like said they owe him because he saved them.
Yeah.
And they essentially, don't they kind of become servants or slaves in a way, or is it servant? Is that the specific phrasing, or is it kind of the same thing?
So I'd have to look it up in Hebrew. My Greek is a lot better than my Hebrew. Now I will say this
Okay.
though, in the Greek, the word that we typically translate as servant is actually the word for slave.
Okay. Yeah.
However, in the ancient world, they didn't necessarily make a lot of distinction in that.
Yeah.
We have such nuance when it comes to that, but that's not the way they looked at it. Anytime somebody can boss you around, you are that person's slave.
Gotcha.
And
Well,
which is why, like, they talked the Bible actually talks a lot about, for instance, like, uh owing money to a bank, because if the bank can boss you around, which it can do because you owe it
right.
money, then you are basically a slave of the bank.
True.
And
Yeah.
and that's kind of the way they operate. And that's also, by the way, how they did things too. Like, you got to remember, like, our world is so fiscally driven, so money driven, that we just don't even think about stuff like that. But, like, imagine your mortgage office, like, that owns the loan on your house, wrote you an email and said, hey, we need you to take a day off work, and we need you to be at the mall at this time, and we need you to do this, and if you do, we're going to take so much off of your loan. Well,
Right.
you'd probably do it,
Yeah.
as long as
True.
it was within reason, and the valuation was right. But in the ancient world, you didn't really even have a choice. As long as you owed them money, they were your master,
Right. Yeah.
and
Interesting.
so they got to say jump, and you got to say how high.
Right.
And
Now,
obviously some people took more advantage of that than others, but still. But yeah.
right. Now, was that sort of them becoming Pharaoh's like people, or however you want to put it? Is that the same? Now, I haven't gotten to Exodus yet, so is that the same like lineage that goes into the story of Moses?
Yes.
Okay, that's
In
what I
fact,
was
once you
assuming,
get
but
once you get to Exodus, that's actually going to be how Exodus starts. Exodus is going to start, basically by saying, so many years passed, a Pharaoh arose who did not remember Joshua or Joseph,
oh, gotcha. Okay,
and that's kind of how it goes. Like, all of a sudden you get this Pharaoh, he doesn't remember Joseph at all. Um, and yeah, and so that's kind of, again, that's going to be kind of how it goes.
gotcha. Interesting. Okay, that's why I thought that's all I got for this week. We'll see once I'm diving in to Exodus. We'll see what happens here.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah. So anyway, no, yeah, honestly, really good questions. I know this is always one of the problems, like looking up stuff, like getting online and just like looking up commentaries and stuff. You really do. I think, I don't know if people really realize, just how many people are out there that are going to kind of swindle them,
yeah.
and
Well, that's what I'm trying to be weary of, because man, there's a lot of people giving a lot of opinions, and
yeah,
they like to tell you, oh, this word means this, and it also means this, and then it's like, I don't know, that like you could just be making that up. I don't know,
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's hard to, because one person said that word and then said, oh, it means cool, but it also means storms, great storms, and it's like, well, that's not what you just looked it up, and that's not exactly what it says.
yeah,
So it's like they're kind of paraphrasing what they wanted to say a little more. So
yeah, yeah. And again, those are that's also, yet again, another reason to, that most pastors anyway, especially, should learn the languages. Now, I'm a big proponent of anybody who wants to learn the languages should learn the languages. It
right.
just adds such a depth of study. And so I always tell you, like, people, like, if they're up for it, if they're really up for it, then you should definitely take the time.
Yeah.
Um, maybe your pastor can help you, or maybe you can do it online. I mean, again, there's free stuff out there, so it's not like
Yeah.
it's really hard to get a hold of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yep, yep, yep.
Well, cool. Thank you. Yeah. All
Yeah,
right. We should move on to your next segment since
I
we got a
know,
little bit
right?
of a time
We're
crunch.
just booking. We're booking
Yeah.
along. All right, here we go. Let me see. I got my sound effects.
Welcome now to Saints in the Shadows. Hear the stories of the saints, learn about things you never knew. See if you can figure out who the saint is before the end.
All right, here we go. His name means bringer of light, but it is so close to another word, wolf. So I like to imagine that is what his friends called him. I like to imagine when he was a kid that the kids in the playground would yell across the yard for the wolf. That at night around the neighborhood, the kids would yell for the wolf to come out to play. Yet I hate to say it, but our wolf predates all those things. That isn't to say he didn't play, but probably not in a schoolyard since they didn't exist yet. However, he was still the kind of person that had interests and hobbies. Wolf liked so many things in this world. Wolf liked stories. He liked adventure. And of all things, Wolf liked to paint. I like to imagine Wolf sitting with his friends, of which he had a few, reminiscing about some of the different things, telling a story or two. But at some point, Wolf got taken away with a particular story. The story impacted him so much that he would later paint about it. His paintings would become legendary. We have writings that talk about his pictures and paintings, and legend has it that one of them might still be around, but it's hard to say, as you're not allowed to see it. I like to imagine that Wolf sat around, listening to the stories around him, while his mind was at ease, that he listened, that he pondered. And it seems that there was one person in particular that he listened to the most. An older woman who seems to have had the best stories. An older woman that had seen some things in her life. And Wolf, well, Wolf listened and listened. Eventually, having heard the stories, Wolf started making the pictures, making the paintings. In total, in total, he made 7, at least that we're aware of. Now, you may have heard of the Wolf of Wall Street, or maybe you heard of the Big Bad Wolf, but this one was different. His name really does mean bringer of light, and so he did. He started in Antioch and traveled quite a bit. You see, hearing the stories, listening to the conversations is one thing, but venturing out with that story, that oh so important story, is another thing entirely. Wolf turned out to be a friend, the kind of friend that was there when you needed him to be. He was the kind of guy that listened as well as acted. Now, for our sake here tonight, you should know that this wolf did not just paint. He wrote as well. In fact, he is known for his letters. While most people don't think of it, Wolf's letters actually make up the majority of the New Testament. See, I told you he liked stories. The Greek word for wolf is lukos, or laikos. And his letters to Theophilus actually, make up percentage-wise more of the New Testament than any other author. Oh, Paul has way more letters, but Luke's letters are just that much longer. He is known for having a lot of material that was known mainly by Mary, the mother of Jesus. In fact, that is who a lot of people believe in his gospel, that he must have talked to the most, because it was in fact Mary that has a lot of the interactions and a lot of the stories, and he also has the birth account in his gospel. Well, all right. There's my saint in the shadow for tonight. It's Saint Luke.
That was
Um,
very nice.
Yeah, we tried.
I tried.
So, so the Gospel of Saint Luke is usually referred to as the ox.
The ox.
Yes. So, so
Why
the
is it
drink,
referred to as the ox?
huh?
Why is it referred to as the ox?
Actually, it's referred to the ox for a couple different reasons. For one, it has a lot of like sacrifice and stuff in the actual gospel, which I guess I
Oh.
never actually put my finger on until I looked this up for tonight. But then also because it starts with Zechariah in terms of the temple.
Oh, okay.
So
what's
anyway,
the
there
the
you have it.
food?
There's so the drink. Oh, that's what I was
Oh,
getting
the
to.
food.
I get distracted by myself.
Sure.
So so the drink for today, and I'm now gonna flip tabs here. Where'd it go? Oh no, it just disappeared.
Uh-oh.
There was a drink. Yeah, where did my conversation go? Yeah, here we go. I found it, I think. I had it all put up here. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, the drink is called Oxen's Gospel.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, right? And it's got 2 ounces of rye whiskey, half an ounce of sweet vermouth, a 1/4 ounce of Benedictine. Now that's a little hard to find by itself. I'll tell you right now, because I like something called B&B, and it's basically a mixture of brandy and Benedictine, but it's hard to get Benedictine just by itself.
Interesting.
2 dashes of bitter and an orange peel for garnish. And so you put it with ice and you stir, basically, all at the end. And that's called the Oxen's Gospel. So there you go. Now, I looked up a couple different recipes for tonight, and I'll be honest, the one I went with, and here's, I'm not going to, again, I'm not going to give you the full recipe because that would just take forever.
Right.
But there's a recipe for basically, it's called Oxen's Pilgrimage Pie.
Whoa.
Now, the reason it's called Oxen's is because it was made with oxtail.
Ah, okay.
Now, I'm not a big fan of necessarily making things with oxtail. I can't say as I've ever really, really done it, so maybe I just need to try it and see. But here's the thing, guys. It's basically a beef pot pie.
Oh, yeah.
And who doesn't like a good beef pot pie?
Oh, I don't know.
I love a beef pot pie.
Those
So that's pretty much what it is. So you can look it up. Now, if you want to make it with oxtail to celebrate the gospel of the ox, you can. But you definitely don't have to. You could just make it with beef chunks and call it a day.
That's by far the coolest drink and food pairing names that's ever been on your segment so far. Both sound so cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, so that one was really good. So honestly, I changed it up a little bit. So again, I always reference the Michael Foley book, and the Michael Foley book actually had a different drink, and it was called the Ox Blood. And I didn't go with that one.
Say the one you had again.
Okay, give me clip tabs here.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine.
We don't have time for this.
Oxen's Gospel.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, right?
That's way cooler. Oxen's Gospel.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got about 20 minutes. So we got to probably...
We got 20 minutes. Hold on. We got to end the segment.
And so it ends. The light shines in the shadow. And now you know more about the story of one of the saints of history.
Yeah, I said I already had to end the segment. We have 20 minutes, and we have 2 segments to go.
That's right.
So, are we ready for the next segment?
Yep.
All right.
And it's time for Lectionary Loop and our look at the upcoming lectionary texts.
You'll actually like this one. So first of all, the lectionary as a whole has to do with perseverance in a hopeless situation or seemingly hopeless situation. We have Jacob as he's waiting for Esau to come, right? Where he wrestles with God.
Yes.
And I'm actually going to talk a lot about that story here in just a second. And I think I might change your world on that one. And then after that, we have another Second Timothy passage. And then the gospel reading is from Luke 18. And it's sometimes called the persistent widow. And it's about a widow that's basically going to an unrighteous judge, but she just keeps going over and over and over again until finally the judge relents and basically gives her what she wants, mainly to shut her up. And basically God says, like, and if this guy is unrighteous, do you really think your heavenly Father is like that? And so basically he says, yeah, no, your heavenly Father is not an unrighteous judge. He loves you and cares for you. And so that the overarching theme seems to be that. Now, before I get going though, I want to come back to that Jacob story, because I'm not going to lie, years and years ago, this happened to me that, I used to watch a vlog, like a video blog. The guy's name was Jonathan Fisk, and he's written some books. A lot of people, he's still popular. He's LCMS famous, as we like to say.
Oh, gotcha.
So he's not what you'd call like real famous, but he's just kind of LCMS famous. But he has this video. He used to do this thing called Greek Tuesdays, where he would go through the Greek text of the upcoming week, or he would go through like a Bible story, for the upcoming week to preach on and stuff. And to be honest, I loved it. I used to watch the thing like clockwork. I used to absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Because he did a good job. He did a really good job. But I remember when he got to this story, and he actually wrote some papers on this one, seminary level papers on this one, and it's really fascinating. So there's two aspects to this story that you really need to look at and realize. And the first one is the one where, we have to ask the question, what in the world is Jacob doing? So for those of you that are unfamiliar with the story, basically Jacob has stolen Esau's birthright. He stole his blessing. His mother kind of prompted him along a little bit, but it was not Jacob's, business to take, but he took it anyway. He's the little trickster. He ends up getting tricked by his uncle into marrying the wrong daughter, and then he ends up marrying the right daughter. So he ends up marrying twice, but he ends up working for his uncle Laban like 14 years or something. Do you remember? I mean,
I don't.
Okay, yeah, it's like, so he's like, his uncle tricks him, basically. His uncle tricks the trickster. Now, the last time Jacob saw Esau said, the next time I see you, I'm going to kill you, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so Jacob is kind of heading back in that direction, and Esau is coming, and his scouts have kind of basically told him, yeah, Esau's coming, your brother's coming. And so Jacob basically takes, and he has like everybody. He has like his family, his servants and all that. They're all gathered there, the women and children and all that. And he basically puts them on one side of, not a river, but like on one side of the wadi. And then he kind of crosses over to the other side. And the first couple of times you read that, you're kind of like, oh, he's trying to save them, until you look at it on a map. No, he's actually putting them in front of him.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, he's basically counting on Esau doing one of two things. Either A, Esau will show up, see the women and children, and have his heart of stone will be turned, and then Jacob will be able to approach him. Or B, Esau is so filled with vengeance and anger that he will slaughter all the women and children, and Jacob will have time to escape.
Ah.
Yeah, Jacob is not a good guy.
Yeah.
Right? Like God's going to make him into a good guy, but he is not a good guy. And he is kind of doing some awful stuff. And that brings me to the second part. So while he's alone, because again, he's alone, he put all his wives, he put all the women and children on the other side for his brother to slaughter. So while he's alone, just waiting there, God comes to him and wrestles with him. And usually the way we read this is kind of like a back and forth. And then eventually, of all things, Jacob gets the upper hand. And then God breaks out like God powers and does something to his hip just to get free, basically. And then after that, God blesses him, right? And that's the way you've probably heard it, right? Is that way you read it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, and this is the thing that Fisk pointed out, and honestly, after you read this, you can't unread it, or after you see it, you can't unsee it. Here's the thing. In Hebrew, the way these people are reading it, the way we are reading it, is that each pronoun represents the next person. So he throws a punch, okay, and then he, being the other person, now deflects the punch, kind of thing. But what happens if he throws two punches? He punches, and then he punches. If you do that even one time, and it's altogether possible, in fact, it's actually likely to a degree. If you do that even one time, the whole story shifts. And it, quite frankly, it makes a little bit more sense to me. Basically, God comes to Jacob, and yes, this very well may be a pre-incarnate Christ. He comes to Jacob at night, and he beats the holy living tar out of him all night long. He beats him absolutely senseless. And then he holds him down and demands that Jacob say his name. And then after that, he reaches down and knocks his hip out of joint. And then he lets him go after he changes his name.
Incredible. Yeah.
And so, you change one, you change, you make it to where the pronouns don't go back and forth. Now, again, your Bible will actually have, he did this, and then God did this, and so it's actually like filling in the gaps, so it's easier to read. But the reality is that Hebrew doesn't do that. Hebrew, it's just he did this, he did this, he did this, and you're just, I guess. Again, your translators are expecting that it's going to be back and forth, which, now to be fair, as per our earlier conversation, does make some sense. But doesn't if you read it like that, doesn't the story kind of make a little bit more sense?
Oh yeah, it would make more sense to me.
So
I don't really
basically just pummels Jacob, and then makes him say his name, and then knocks his hip out of joint. And yeah, he has striven with God. And yeah, he has striven with God and succeeded in that he's not dead. Yeah. So in the end, he goes, your name is now Israel because you've striven with God and succeeded. And it's like, well, yeah, he did. He did, because most people that strive with God die.
Right.
And he didn't die. He wrestled well, so to speak. But yet at the same time, God still beat the holy tar out of him.
Right.
And so anyway, I've kind of had a fascination with that story ever since I watched that, and because that was the big thing with that story. And maybe at some point, if I can ever think of it, I'll put a link. Maybe I'll try to put a link in the description of this podcast.
Yeah, that'd be interesting
for people to watch if they want to. But it's because, again, it's interesting. It's really fascinating.
That is fascinating.
So there you go. There's my lectionary loop. We don't have exit music for lectionary loop, so there you go.
There it is.
There it is. Okay, with 11 minutes to go, we ready for our last one?
Oh, we're ready.
All right.
To our last segment, probably.
All right. Are we ready for church chatter? Oh, we got it.
Oh, we got it.
We got it. We got it right there. All right. Well, kind of what I was holding off on. Remember, I said I was going to save it for church.
That's right.
That's
right.
We as you know, we've been pulling the podcast apart a little bit.
Yes.
And so if you are interested, if anybody's interested, we now have So we've separated out the Saints in the Shadows and the No Stupid Questions. Those are each their own individual podcast, as well as, I mean, if you listen to the Parishscope, the whole thing, you're going to get all of it. It's all there. But if you are crunched for time and you want to listen to it almost piecemeal, you can also do that now.
Yeah.
And I think that's exciting.
I think so too. And I like it because I want to be like, I think it's nice to be able to like send people certain segments,
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be posting more, like trying to share the No Stupid Questions and different things that we've done in the past, and so yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah. No, it's super exciting. It really, really is. So anyway, that's kind of what I was holding back on, because I was like, oh, I'll tell that later in the church chatter, because it's really interesting, and I'm gonna start putting it on our slideshow. I got some QR codes I'm working on. So yeah, we're gonna push this thing out there a little bit. So see what happens. So that's pretty exciting. That's pretty
Yeah.
exciting.
I
We have a
agree.
toy hobby show coming up on November 2nd. So that's kind of our
Yes.
next real big thing, is the toy hobby show.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah. So honestly, like, just thinking about St. John's, that's really all we got. What do you guys got going over at Washington?
We have our vendor event at the end of the month,
Oh,
the
yeah.
last Saturday of the month. So the craft vendor event. So it's a good event. All the we have a committee of some of the ladies in the church who put on different events, and they do a really good job with this one. And
Yeah.
so we're looking forward to that. And then I think I said last week, we do have a new secretary, and she's kind of getting settled in, and
Sure.
she's doing already just a fantastic job already. So we really got lucky with her. And then I know they had a committee committee meeting on
Mhm.
Sunday. So I think I'm not sure what candidate they sent a call out to, but we should be probably having a call being sent out. And so fingers crossed, hopefully, we'll see where that one goes. So we're just trying to stay hopeful.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Fair enough. Well, God's blessings on that. I hope it works out.
I do
Hope you guys
too.
call
Yeah.
somebody good, and I hope he accepts.
Yeah, I hope so. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
So
But that's pretty much everything here. I don't have too much else really happening besides that.
well, I know we've rushed a little bit this evening just to get it done, but we're at like pretty much 43 minutes, so we did good.
Yeah, we did
good.
great.
Now, we did have to pretty much cut out our first segment to do that, but that's okay. But yeah, so anyway, but anyway, so yeah, I guess that's all we got. I guess we're gonna end early, but again, we have to, otherwise we're gonna get cut off anyway. So
That's true.
All right, with that, well, all right, everybody, thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.